It's Friday, September 27th. Let's talk PlayStation. As always on Let's Talk PlayStation, let's get a couple of the small news stories out of the way before we move into our cover story and our title and our thumbnail for the video, all that good stuff. The Killzone Shadowfall Bundle for the PS4 has been officially confirmed. We saw this a couple weeks back on Amazon France. They kind of leaked it, got pulled down, all that good stuff. It's officially confirmed. It's coming in November for Europe. £440 is going to get you a PS4 and a text message. God damn you, naughty dog James. Stop ruining my videos, man. 440 euros is going to get you Killzone Shadowfall on a PlayStation 4. Bump that up to 500 euros, you're going to get Killzone Shadowfall, 2 DualShock 4s, and the PlayStation camera, and of course that beautiful slanted eraser PlayStation 4. So there you go. Great deal, by the way. 500 bucks. That's a great value for all that stuff that you're getting in the box. So if you're even remotely interested in an extra DualShock 4 or the PlayStation camera or the Killzone Shadowfalls, I'd go for the 500 euro bundle. And yes, these bundles are not coming to America. Nothing like that has been confirmed, although Sony is of course expressing their, interests in releasing bundles, and they do it all the time, so I'm sure America will get something like that at some point. So let's move on to some PS4 facts, because we love knowing more and more things about that little black box with that blue line in the middle that illuminates that, beautifulness, right? Shuhei Yoshida and Sony's SVP of Asia and Japan and all that basically did a bunch of interviews this past week, said a lot of new things about PS4 that we didn't know, so now we know a little bit more about it. So right off the bat, let's just get into some PS4 facts. I'm probably going to overlay some text over this or something, but here we go. The secondary chip for low power consumption is mostly active from 1 to 4 a.m. and will download required updates automatically. It also does this when software is purchased through external means, so probably the PlayStation app and things of that nature. The noise level of the console is generally lower than that of the PlayStation 3. The PS4's cooling fan has stepless speed control. It will increase speed to match the heat smoothly, rather than a huge burst like the PS3, so your PS3 is not going to be like, you know how that goes, right? The Blu-ray player on the PlayStation 4 is 6x speed instead of 2x on the PS3. This means the disc spinning noise will actually be louder on the PlayStation 4, though caching data on the HDD can counter some of this. Affordability and power were in mind when creating the PlayStation 4, so obviously Sony pretty much learned their lesson, not creating a $600 box this time around. And apparently they're saying this was not easy to do, and we'll talk about that later. USB 3.0 was put in because it will be more mainstream in the PS4's life cycle, because it's not really mainstream just yet, and it is also required for the PlayStation camera. Playing full games on the PlayStation app for smartphones through remote play is pretty much not going to happen. This is of course due to the phone being completely touchscreen, no buttons at all, and the phone will only act as a second screen complementary experience, things we've seen like that in The Division and stuff. CD playback was not included because of the aspect of connecting online, enjoying your music through Music Unlimited, or simply saving content to the cloud to view them from there. The PS4 was initially designed with multiple colors in mind, hinting at later color options later. So the people making PlayStation 4, the actual hardware design, were making this thing to look good in many colors and not just jet black, which is what the PS4 is going to launch at. And straight up, no, PSP Remote Play is not supported. That device is sort of left behind at this point. Sony's moved on from that system, and while it's still being sold, hardware-wise, and there's still games coming out for it every now and then, it's not going to get Remote Play support. The light bar on the DualShock 4 is actually angled down on the controller, so it doesn't show up on your TV as glare. And remote play with PS Vita TV will be limited to 720p. This would obviously make sense considering latency is going to be a priority when doing a remote play. You want it to run smoothly and things of that nature. Those are some of the more interesting facts I picked out for you guys. Certainly interesting to hear Sony's process of designing this machine and what they're obviously going for, and certain thoughts and concerns and questions are now being answered more and more frequently up until the console's release. So that's obviously good. So Sony is once again teaming up with Taco Bell to give away PlayStation products. They did it with the PS Vita, and now they're doing it with the PlayStation 4. If you want a PlayStation 4 before it comes out, you better head on to your local Taco Bell and get a $5 box. Now, I included this news story. There's, countless amounts of diarrhea jokes I could make. There's many jokes I could make about Taco Bell, but I'm just going to leave this here and maybe let someone control the comments section with the whole Taco Bell scenario. So Deep Down by Capcom, PlayStation 4 exclusive, is free to play. That was just recently announced, so, we're learning more about this game. more often. Looks like they got more things to show about this game. The game's going to be free to play, and it's going to obviously have transactions within the game, so that will obviously earn revenue for the game. And interesting, did not see that coming for that game. I thought that was a $60, online centric game, but that is a free to play title. The open beta for the game is going to be starting in February for Japan only, and I'm neutral on this subject. Free to play can be done properly. It can be done in a very, very bad wrong way. I'm not necessarily going to be straight up against it. I have no problem with downloading a game for free. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to do it the right way instead of possibly nickel and diming people for the most minuscule, dumbest things to even, progress in the game. It can be done properly, but of course not everyone's happy with free to play. But interesting. We'll have to wait and see. I'm still interested in Deep Down, and end of news story. So let's talk about PS Vita TV, specifically it ever releasing outside of Japan and obviously coming to the West. Basically, Sony is saying that they're very surprised with the positive response that PS Vita is having in the West. And they're obviously now, more inclined to possibly release it over here. And my prediction was that they, weren't going to release it over here. I just don't think they ever would. And that's kind of what it's sounding like. But considering that they're now surprised by the positive response, they may be more inclined to. Now, Andrew House, CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, explained that the reason why they, focused on Japan and Asian markets is because, quite frankly, there's a lack of market for that. They don't have set-top boxes over there that are really dominating. Video streaming services, they really don't have anything like that. That's kind of what he's explaining as to why they're going for that market. Whereas in America, Apple TV's doing good, the Roku box is doing good. You've got all these other, Android boxes and smart TVs that are doing video services. So that's why he's more inclined to focus on this market. But, positivity of the West means we could possibly see it come over. And I definitely do think they should bring this device over because there is a lot of appeal to it outside of just those streaming services. This is an actual box, $100 box that plays Vita games, PS1 games, streams possible PS3 games through Gaikai, and then of course it's going to stream PS4 games remotely to another TV. It's actually a really cool box outside of those video streaming services. And, even though the market they want to go to, which is video streaming in Asia, we actually would like it over here for those other purposes. So hopefully we'll see it. I want to. And I actually have one ordered. Remember, it's coming to this location from Japan. I imported a PS Vita TV, so you'll see it on this channel, unboxing, demonstrations, blah, 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 reviews and all that. You know what that YouTube stuff's for. Now let's move on to The Last Guardian. We have another update from Shuhei Yoshida. Shuhei has always been saying the game is still being developed, and now he's saying the game is still being developed, but they're actually waiting to reintroduce the game. So this is actually one of the more positive responses we've gotten in regards to The Last Guardian. They're waiting to reintroduce it to us. This obviously hints at some sort of major, not like major, but certainly a reintroduction of the game, something that we, it's been how many years since we've last seen trailers and things of that nature, so of course, I'm going to assume this is a platform shift. It shifted to PS4 development, possibly PS4, PS3, whatever have you. This game is not going to be just PS3. I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement of that. But, possibly a different approach to the game. Maybe it looks different. Maybe it could be completely different. It's been a while since we've seen the game. But he's still saying the team at SEE Japan's down there. Ueda-san's still there. The game's still going, and they're waiting to reintroduce it to us, which what I would assume is a actual reintroduction of the game to possibly new platforms, and it possibly even looking better or different. Any sort of thing that would... anything. Just show us the game when it's ready, though. If it'll ever be ready. Which it, will be, I would assume. Hopefully. Maybe, sort of. I hope. Yes. So let's go into one of our cover story topics. Shuhei Yoshida was in an interview recently, and he basically said, Sony could possibly be outside of the realms of hardware at some point and turning PlayStation into not just hardware, possibly outside of hardware, but also services. So things like with what Gaikai, what they're starting right now with Gaikai, streaming PS3 games to PS4, Vita, PS3, that's just the start of what the company wants to do. They want to take PlayStation to the service front, make PlayStation a services name, and possibly even, stream games to PCs, tablets, smart TVs, not just PlayStation consoles. Now this, of course, is a very interesting idea and a very interesting topic, because like some people are saying like, ooh, consoles are gonna die, or ooh, this, that, and the other's gonna die, and if those things do happen, which by the way I don't think they will anytime soon, but if they do, it's like, where does that leave Sony? Where does that leave the PlayStation division? Where does that leave Sony in terms of making PlayStation hardware and games only for PlayStation? The studios, Sony's got like 12 to 14 developers developers all making PlayStation games, whether they're first party or second party. You know, Sony's a big company and they've got these developers, they've got these studios making games, but if they can't stay in hardware, where are they going to go? And even it's not even about them also, you know, it's not even about them leaving hardware, it's that they just want to expand. It's worth mentioning Shuhei Yoshida said, like, PlayStation and hardware will be at the forefront, it will be the priority, which will possibly mean this could be a strategy for, you know, getting more people interested in buying PlayStation hardware. Perhaps there's going to be something on TVs and smartphones and all that that is not like a full experience, possibly something more bite-sized, or, you know, maybe a piece of something that gets you more invested in possibly buying PlayStation hardware, or maybe it is the full game and that's just a service Sony offers. Something to get more people to buy their games, because this is still their properties. They own Ratchet & Clank, they own Uncharted, they own all these names, right? So these names don't have to be on PlayStation hardware. They could sell Ratchet & Clank anywhere they want to, because it's still their property, they still own it, and at the end of the day, they're a business, and that's another way they can make money. And of course, this might upset some people, like, oh, Sony's going to leave hardware, or they don't, you know, they're not going to focus on hardware as much anymore. I don't want to just play games on my, just straight up from my TV, or straight up from a phone or tablet or something like that. And, you know, it's not about them doing those things and stopping hardware. It's, you know, about them doing everything. But of course, this is such a broad topic, right? Like, in this interview, Shuhei did not say much other than, like, they want to expand and they want to be, you know, not just hardware, but services. That's a very broad, vague way he's saying it. You know, that this could be, there could be a billion ways that Sony could go about doing these things, you know. And I certainly don't know how they do it, but, you know, there's rationale behind it, because they can make money from it, you know. In fact, you know, with hardware, Sony hardly ever makes money on hardware. They don't. They lost a lot of money with PS3, and the next news story that we're going to talk about is where Sony's losing money on PS4 hardware. Usually, all these hardware makers make all their money back from software and services, and, you know, software and services is what Sony has. They have Gaikai, that's a service. They have games, those are software. You know, like, why does the hardware even need to be in there, for example? Now, of course, the hardware doesn't, you know, there's a reason why the hardware is there, but you know, there's also reason to say, like, why shouldn't it be elsewhere, you know? It's just revenue streams. I don't think Sony's exiting hardware anytime soon. They've always been a hardware company. You know, I think there's always going to be PlayStation hardware or Sony devices where you can play their games on, but it's interesting to think about the possibilities of the future where you could possibly be playing Sony's franchises elsewhere instead of PlayStation. You know, hardware, of course. You know, Sony products. It's interesting. But of course, let me know what you think on this broad and vague topic that Shuhei talked about in terms of turning PlayStation into a service. I'm interested to hear from you. Now let's move on to our last news story, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago. PlayStation 4 is going to be sold at a loss. Sony has confirmed this. Now we don't know how much money they're going to be losing on each PS4, but it's rumored to say that they're going to be losing around $60 for every PlayStation 4. So if you buy a PlayStation 4, Sony just lost $60. And this has happened before. Hardware makers a lot of the time lose money selling hardware and they make it back through software and services. And that's basically what Sony's saying. In fact, they're saying that right now, if you buy one game in PlayStation Plus with your PlayStation 4, they basically recoup that loss. So they're basically back into neutral, and then if you buy more, that's where they start earning a profit. This is obviously pretty good. $60 per system is not that bad for them to recoup their losses from that. You know, like when the PS3 launched, Sony was losing upwards to over $200 per system. So, you know, obviously people had to buy a lot of games for the PS3 at the time to, you know, recoup those costs. And of course, it was very expensive to make PS3. The PS3 had a cell processor, and it had Blu-ray technology, which was still very expensive back then. And it was just so much going into the PS3, and they weren't just getting anything out of it. Because, of course, software was lacking. People weren't buying PS3s. It was, you know, really bad. And if people did buy PS3s, Sony lost money. And if that person didn't buy enough games, they were losing money. It was really bad. So $60 per system is not that bad at all. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you so much for talking with me, and I'll see you next Friday.